One of the first things you'll want to do when you start using Perfect Record is to set your contract defaults. You can access this on the My Account tab under the My Organization section in the upper right. There's a button down below that says Edit Contract Defaults. Click on that button and it takes you to the Contract Defaults page. What these contract defaults are designed to do is to allow you to save a bunch of time and effort when you're using other parts of our platform, namely when you're creating contracts and then when you're going to send those contracts out. You see you've got a list of all your different sports here. Let's look at baseball for an example. You can see we've got two sections to the contract defaults. We have contract submission defaults and then game contract defaults. And let's start with game contract defaults first. What this section is where you can set default information that's going to go onto your contracts on a field by field basis. So this is great for that type of information that's not really going to change from game to game. All your baseball games are going to be at your baseball stadium. The same group is going to do your officials assigning from game to game. And you can really set defaults for just about any field that can go on the contract, except for the ones that are necessarily going to change from game to game, like date, time, and opponent. So this is one thing I definitely recommend you do before you start creating contracts. And then the other section here is contract submission defaults. This is where you can set defaults for these choices that you need to make when you're going to send out the individual contracts. So game contract defaults are for when you're creating the contracts. Contract submission defaults are for when you're sending the contracts. So you've got a number of choices when you're going to send out a contract, and here you can set default information. If you're always going to want the same person to internally approve a contract within a sport before it goes out, you can check this box. You could enter their email address, and then that person will automatically be selected as an internal approval. If you don't understand what these options mean, or these options on here, you can check out a couple of the videos we have. For the game contract defaults, we've got a video that explains how to create contests, and this should make a lot more sense then. For the contract submission defaults, we've got another video that explains how to send a contract, and so these default choices should make a lot more sense then. I highly recommend that you set these defaults before you enter your schedules, because these defaults are only going to apply to newly created contests after the defaults are set. So if you enter your schedules and then you set these defaults, none of this default information is going to show up on those contracts, and so then you'll probably have to either manually enter that information or just delete those schedule items and then re-enter your schedule. So you'll save a whole bunch of time and effort by setting the defaults first before you create your schedules. The last thing to draw your attention to on this page is this all section. So you've got individual sports where you can set information, and then we have this all button. This will allow you to set defaults that will apply to all of your contracts. And this is really great if you have kind of standard language that you want to go on every single one of your contracts. Something like a cancellation terms. Many schools are including force majeure clauses, and so this is a great place to put that. The one caveat with using this all section is if you include information under all for a particular field, and then you also include information for a particular sport in that same field, what you put for the particular sport will override what you put for all. It's not like they both get added in. It's one or the other. And so individual sport fields will override fields that are for all. But this is a really nice tool, again, if you have language that you want to go on all of your contracts and not just particular sports.